keeping in mind that this issue has been on the table, ongoing for, like you said, 80 years. If we are going to right the wrong, why can't we just right this wrong once and for all? Of the UN Security Council, a permanent member, they must have the full rights just like the other 5 members, which means they must have veto power. Inviting Africa to the table and then asking them to remain mute, but it is an insult to 1.4 billion people.
The Leading Like a Lady podcast was created to remind Black women, young and old, that acting like a lady is exactly what the world needs in leadership. Don't forget to subscribe to the blog so that you receive updates on when we post directly to your email. I've been avoiding talking about Africa for a while now, not because I don't want to address what's going on the continent, but because what has been going on has been extremely depressing and extremely complicated also, and I felt that I needed time to really dig deep and think about how I'm going to deliver this in a way that would be digestible. But a recent incident that happened made me so irate, made me so angry that I felt like I needed to talk about it. And I'm going to talk about it through the lens of this woman who I think you should know. And we'll get to her specifically in a moment. But first, what's been going on in general? Well, there's one major incident that I really want to hone in on, which is having to do with the United Nations. So recently we had the UN General Assembly, lots of people and leaders speaking, and specifically the US's or the United States' ambassador to the United Nations recently went on record stating that the United States wants to invite 2 African countries to join the UN Security Council. The United States inviting 2 African countries to be a part of the Security Council makes perfect sense for several reasons. Number one, Africa is one of the largest continents on the planet and has the largest population of youth who are going to be leaders of this new world moving forward. So representation of that continent makes absolute sense on such a powerful political stage. Africa is a majority Black and brown continent, and it's been egregious or ridiculous that there hasn't been enough representation of majority Black and brown people on the Security Council, especially as permanent members, for the past 80 years. What is the Security Council? The Security Council is basically the arm of the United Nations that tries to hold other countries accountable for conventions and rules agreed upon by member states. For example, the United Nations Security Council has been responsible for sanctions against Russia for its various criminal activity, especially the war against Ukraine. There are 5 permanent members who also have veto rights. One of them includes the United States. Keep that in mind. Vetoing rights means that if there is a majority vote in the Security Council to take a certain action, anyone with veto opportunity can strike that decision down. This has been used before in nefarious, crazy ways, specifically by United States when the Security Council was trying to hold that country accountable for its war crimes, including in the Iraq War and in Afghanistan. It has also been using vetoing power to stop any action from being taken against Israel in the current Gaza situation. So the United States ambassador to the United Nations, who is a Black woman, says that on behalf of the United States, we would like to invite 2 African countries to join the Security Council, which makes perfect sense when you just look at it at that level, because Africa is one of the largest continents. It has the highest population of young people who are going to be the next leaders of this huge continent. And it's a continent that has majority Black and brown people represented there. So it only makes sense that we should be at the decision table on a global political level. However, they are inviting us to join without that essential or coveted vetoing power that the United States has. That's the part that grinds my gears. Why would you insultingly, to be honest, invite a majority black and brown continent to the table to make decisions only so that you can be able to shut down those decisions if need be. There's so many reasons why and how that can go wrong, because there's so many issues about exploitation of African countries due to post-colonialism, due to so many industries depending on Africa's natural resources to thrive and survive, that us not having veto power or ability to make sure that any voting decisions that we make on the Security Council actually go through on our behalf is crazy. And that's why, again, you should know this woman who I'm getting ready to talk about, who has been a staunch advocate of Africa getting its act together and rising up against these powers that be who try to insult us. And we're going to talk about her right now. Dr. Chihombori Quao was born in Zimbabwe and then moved to Tennessee for college and medical school. In Tennessee, she opened Bell Family Medical Centers after graduating with a medical degree in organic chemistry. She's been practicing medicine for at least 25 years, opening clinics in her home country of Zimbabwe as well since 1996. She became the African Union's permanent representative to the United States in 2016. According to the AU, this job involves strengthening democratic institutions, advancing trade and investment, knowledge sharing, and promoting peace and security between the United States and all 55 AU member countries, based on quote-unquote shared values. And this is where, allegedly, according to some people, Quao and the AU differed. Because according to Quao, in several speeches and quotes that she's delivered on news programs and international stages, she has criticized America, France, and other Western countries of exploiting Africa for its natural resources. Specifically, she has condemned France over and over again for exploiting currency exchange industry in its francophone countries, not the shared values that she thinks that the AU and the US, for example, should hold. 3 years later, after her appointment in November 2019, the AU fired Quao from her permanent ambassador role, allegedly because of abuse of funds and office. For example, an investigation by the AU claims that she used $181 earmarked for a special project to launch a beauty pageant instead. Quao didn't deny holding the pageant, but denied that she misused the funds for the pageant. A petition was signed by over 90,000 people at the time that she was fired, claiming that she was a target for speaking out against what powerful yet corrupt countries were doing in Africa, and these people in the petition demanded that she should get her job back. Clearly, more than 5 years after the fact, she did not.
So it's not 100% clear what the former AU ambassador is doing now, other than a few speaking arrangements here and there and appearing on traditional media such as Al Jazeera Network. I would assume that she is back practicing medicine at her clinic, which is again based in Tennessee, but also has offices across Zimbabwe. Of course, she's still on social media posting her thoughts about Africa and the African diaspora getting together on one accord in one alignment around decolonization. That being said, I do think that she is someone to continue watching and to continue to see what happens when you just follow through with your thoughts and your beliefs, regardless of whether it is lucrative for you, regardless of whether it is pushing forward your career. This is really important for someone like me, at least, and you can tell me in the comments whether you agree, because I am someone who feels like I can only operate from a place of authenticity. And a lot of times I feel like I've shot myself in the foot, missing opportunities to be an opportunist, to not necessarily go with what exactly aligns with my morals and my values in order to, quote unquote, get to achieve the bigger picture. You know, people saying you have to fight the battle from inside the system. And then we, of course, have those people who say the master's tools cannot be used to break down the kingdom. That all being said, even if you are on the latter side, which is break down the master's house, try not to use his same exploitative tools, you do have to admit that it is going to put you in a bind. It's going to put a target on your back. And so my goal with introducing you to Ambassador Chihombori Quao and talking about her approach to this specific issue around Africa and representation in high powers of leadership is to say that you're not alone in thinking about if you're someone who feels that you've been struggling with how to balance this act. And you have an example to kind of keep a close eye on to see how she maneuvers this. I will say, and this is maybe where I'll summarize my last point, that she comes from an older generation. So while she is very bold and speaks out very defiantly in a way that people would say is kind of reminiscent of what people are associating with Gen Z lately, I do also wonder if she is not making full use of the tools that we have in present day, outside of just, having her social media presence and tweeting or posting a lot of what she says already on traditional media. There must be a more creative solution for having the same thought and having the same values and pushing it forward with more modern approaches, more modern strategies. And that is something, frankly, that I am still studying closely and carefully and trying to figure out. One of the ways that I'm trying to do that is to find my tribe. That's why I built this channel. That's why I built this organization, this platform, is to find other women leaders who want to be bold enough and speak out about these things, but just need to find the other person across the room who is not going to say that they're with them, and then when the going gets tough, leave them hanging. And so that's my approach thus far. And I do like what one recent YouTuber said about this, about not being so transparent about what your strategy is as well. So I don't think it's bad to say that I'm looking for other people to connect with, because you have to say that in order to connect, right? You have to make sure people know that you're here and that you're ready to join forces. Now, when we do join forces and then having that more deeper conversation about what exactly we're going to implement to get our ideas and views across and actually implemented in greater society, that's a different story. So yeah, I just wanted to make this quick video to point out that there are role models to look towards and to observe and to analyze and see where you can copy and paste exactly what they're doing and where you can do things a little bit differently for the greater good of the African diaspora, which is always my main core mission. Also, let me know your thoughts about this whole call about inviting more African nations to the UN Security Council. Did you hear about it before you watched this video? If you did, what were your thoughts when you initially heard it? Or if you're just learning about it by watching this video, let me know what you're thinking. What's your initial reaction? Sorry, I did say I was going to wrap up, but one last thing I will say about that is it kind of doesn't make sense from a political standpoint to not invite Nigeria and South Africa if there are only going to be 2 seats, Nigeria being the one with the highest population. I, as a Nigerian, can tell you that I have a lot of qualms about that. I won't get into all of them in this video. Maybe that will be a video for another time. But I definitely do pause and want to think carefully about what it would look like to have someone seated on the Security Council representing Nigeria when Nigeria is already going through a lot of issues in terms of making sure that domestically democracy is in place to protect vulnerable communities. So with that being said, again, let me know your thoughts about this whole topic, and then also what do you think about the former ambassador Chihombori Kwao? Do you think that she's someone that you want to emulate, and why?
Don't forget to subscribe to the blog so that you receive updates on when we post directly to your email.